All right, let's just dive right in. When I say the word brand, what pops into your head? Is it a logo, a specific product, maybe a catchy tagline? Look, if that's what you thought, you're not alone. But that's not really what a brand is. And honestly, getting this one thing wrong is probably the biggest reason most marketing just falls flat. This quote from the legends Al Rees and Jack Trout absolutely nails it. See, positioning isn't about the stuff you do to a product. It's about what you do to the mind of your customer. The real fight, the real battlefield, it's not on some store shelf. It's right there, inside their head. So yeah, all those things, the product, the logo, that catchy jingle, those aren't the brand. Think of them more like artifacts of the brand. They're the tools you use to build it, but the brand itself is something way bigger, way more powerful, and, well, a lot more abstract. So what is a brand then? Here it is, the big idea. A brand is basically a piece of mental real estate. It's the little box in your customer's mind where they file you away. And here's the kicker. If you don't deliberately build and define that box, they will. And trust me, you're probably not going to like the box they build for you. Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to talk about where the competition really happens. Then, we'll nail down what a brand story actually is. After that, we'll look at the framework you use to bring that story to life. And finally, we'll dig into why so many brands get this completely wrong. Let's be totally clear about this. The battle for your customers' loyalty, for their money, it's not won in a factory, it's not won in a store. It's won or lost in that super crowded, super noisy space that is inside their mind. Think about it like this. On one side, you've got the product, right? That's the tangible stuff, the ingredients, the software code, how it actually performs. But then on the other side, you have the brand. And that's totally intangible. It's like a mental shortcut. It's what people remember, what they feel, what they associate you with. And this simple difference, it explains everything. It's why two products can be virtually identical but have completely different results in the market. One becomes this must-have item people line up for, while the other just gathers dust on the shelf. The only real difference? One of them built a powerful brand inside the customer's head. So remember this, value isn't created in the product, it's created in the perception. And this chart here is a fantastic way to visualize this. See, we all have these mental maps for everything. Take a look at this one for cars. You see how they're all sorted? It's all based on awareness and perception. You've got your AI pioneers over here, your high-stakes innovators like Tesla over there. The point is, your brand is already sitting on a map like this inside your customers' heads, whether you know it or not. The entire job of marketing is to pick your spot on that map and own it. Okay, so if the big goal is to claim a specific piece of that mental real estate, how on earth do you do it? Well, you need a blueprint. And that blueprint, that's your brand story. Now let's get something straight. A brand story isn't just a clever ad or some slick campaign. It's way more fundamental than that. It is the core logic of your entire business. It's your one simple, compelling answer to the only question that a customer ever really asks. Why should I choose you? Now, this core logic, it's not something you plaster on a billboard. It's an internal tool. It gets captured in a super important document called a positioning statement. The best way to think of it is like a North Star for your entire company. It makes sure everyone, from sales to product to marketing, is telling the exact same story. And a really strong one answers 4 questions that sound simple but are actually pretty tough. First up, for whom? You cannot be for everyone. You have to pick your people. Second, what value? What makes you unique? Then, why and how? This is your proof. What are the reasons to believe you can actually deliver? And finally, this is a big one. Relative to whom? Because no brand lives in a bubble. You have to define who you're up against to really define yourself. You know, when you really boil it all down, that's the whole game right there. First, you have to tell people which box to put you in. What's your category? Are you a luxury car or a budget-friendly EV? Then, once they know the category, you tell them why you're a totally unique choice inside that box. That's it. Categorize, then differentiate. Okay, so let's keep building on this. Having a great brand story is one thing, but it's totally useless if it just stays stuck on a whiteboard, right? You need a system, a framework, to turn that story into actual influence out in the real world. And this, right here, is where so many companies just completely fall apart. They treat marketing like this random collection of activities, a social post here, a quick sale there. But real, effective marketing isn't random at all. It's a deliberate system. That system follows a clear path. It starts with the objective. What behavior are we trying to change? Then you define the target. Who exactly are we talking to? The real genius comes next with the insight. This is some deep human truth about that audience that you can tap into. That insight then fuels your positioning, the story you're telling, and only after all of that is locked in do you get to the execution, the fun stuff, the ads, the content. See, strategy always comes before tactics. And when you have that clear strategy, it's like the sun in your brand's solar system. Everything has to orbit around it. Every single customer touchpoint, your ads, your packaging, your price, all of it has to point back to and reinforce that one single core idea. The minute you're inconsistent, you create confusion. And a confused mind always says no. Which brings us perfectly to our last, and honestly maybe the most important section. Because if you can really understand why most brands fail, you've got a much better shot at making sure yours doesn't. It really all boils down to one thing. The number one killer of brands, it's not a bad product. It's not a tiny budget. It's a lack of clarity. They fail because they just haven't clearly answered the questions we've been talking about. What happens is they try to be everything to everybody. They claim they have 10 different benefits, they chase 5 different types of customers, and where do they end up? In this super crowded, super generic Me Too space where they're basically invisible because they don't stand for anything special at all. Okay, now let's flip it and look at the total opposite of that. This is what clarity looks like in the wild. This Grubhub ad, it's just a masterclass in sharp, clear positioning. You look at this for literally a second and a half, and you know exactly what it is and who it's for. No confusion. So why is this ad so unbelievably good? Let's break it down. That bright orange, it's an instant brand cue. The huge type, super low effort to read. The simple rhyme, grub, hub, it's sticky, it helps you remember it. It perfectly frames the problem, hungry, and gives the one-word solution. In under 2 seconds, it perfectly links the customer's problem to the brand's solution. That is pure, uncut strategic focus. And that really brings us home to the biggest insight of all. A strong brand isn't built by adding more stuff. It's not more features or more messages or more promises. It's actually an act of subtraction. It's about having the strategic guts to pick the one thing you want to be famous for, which automatically means having the discipline to say no to all the other stuff. So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. The most powerful, most iconic brands in the world, they are not for everybody. They are perfect for a specific somebody, and they get that power by making really clear choices and trade-offs. So the question isn't just, who is your brand for? The much tougher and much more strategic question is, who are you intentionally choosing not to be for?